I've got the new Model 3, the so-called Highland. I've only had it a few weeks. And I'm still conflicted about electric cars. I've had 6 now. 2 of them were hydrogen fuel cell Toyotas before the whole hydrogen infrastructure thing fell apart.
Yeah.
But they're essentially electric cars, driven by an electric motor. But with BEVs, there's a lot I like about them. I like the silence. I mean, it feels like magic and Star Trek to me because I'm of a certain age. I like that they're polite. I can leave my little country hobbit cottage at 4 a.m. without disturbing even a worm.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. But I still think the ambition is way ahead of the battery technology. It's still not really good enough. Even
with the Tesla, where you have the supercharger network and...
Yeah, but there still aren't enough of them.
Yeah.
And it still takes too long. I argue with this with people, both sides, because you get the anti-EV people who are simply anti-EV because they're defensive about something. And then you get the ridiculous EV evangelists who say, I'm quite happy to stop driving after 250 miles an hour. And by the time I've had a Waz and eaten my burger, my car's charged. And I think, rubbish. What you're claiming is that the exhaustion of your range, your hunger, and an available charger coincide.
All coincide precisely.
And they don't. You actually, if you drive all around the country, you end up navigating between high-speed chargers and hoping there aren't too many people on them. My back-of-an-envelope calculation, and I'm not good at mathematical modelling or anything, but I think if we go ahead with the 2035 date and so on, and the national car fleet is replaced at roughly the rate it is now, in another 15 years or so, about 75-80% of the car fleet, assuming everything else stays the same, will be electric. And if it's still at current technology, i.e. it's BEVs, we're going to need millions of charging points. It's not tens or hundreds of thousands. It's millions.
Yeah.
And you cannot get around the problem of even a quick charge taking 15 or 20 minutes. Because the other argument I have with people is, I say argument, debate, it usually happens online somewhere. They say, you never have to fill it with petrol. And then anyway, by the time you filled it with petrol and had a wee and bought a packet of fruit pastels, you might as well have charged your car. And I say, no, I'm actually boring enough to have timed this. And I do stop even in my 911, which has a famously large petrol tank, and fill it up and go and pay and get back in the car. And it can just be 3 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm a bad ambassador for the electric car, really, because
you are seen to be quite, not evangelical on the subject, but you are seen to be very sort of pro EV.
I am pretty pro. I think we've known, since the beginning of the 20th century that electric motors are the sensible way to power a car, because internal combustion is fascinating, like clockwork is, and it's full of flaws, and that's what gives it mechanical character, and that's why we love it. And you have to manage it, and you have to have a gearbox, blah blah, all this stuff. It's all great. It's very exciting. But in terms of common sense, the electric motor, low maintenance, quiet, smell-free, no reciprocating parts, makes more sense. The electricity storage has always been a problem. And what was the actual point I was going to make? Yes, is that what people call range anxiety, I actually think is recharging anxiety. Because if an electric car had a small battery, which would save weight, which is important, and save a lot of money, because the battery is the expensive bit. So it has a small battery. It's only got a range of, say, 150 miles, but it recharges in 1 minute. I'd be delighted with that. And there are lots of chargers. The reason we have cars, like my outgoing Tesla, which was the Model S, bloody huge thing that weighs slightly more than a Rolls-Royce Silver Shadow, which is a car from the 60s, and is a much more lavishly appointed thing, is because of that massive battery. It has to have the massive battery because it's an acknowledgement that charging is an issue. And even with massive batteries, the range of electric cars is not that impressive. Not compared with my Polo, which will do easily 450 miles on a tank. And, on Top Gear, we had an Audi that was driven for over 1,000 miles. It was a diesel on one tank. And it still recharges, i.e. refills, in a matter of minutes.
And anywhere.
And anywhere, so I like being part of the experiment, and I feel an obligation as a car enthusiast to do my bit. But I'm sorry,
go on.
I'm on a bit of a roll.
Go on.
But people like me are bad evangelists for the electric car because I have two homes. This is going to sound very first worldy, I know, but I've got two homes, and that's my most regular journey between those.
And you can charge at both.
I can charge at both indoors.
Yeah.
They've both got garages. They're only 100 miles apart.
Yeah.
I've got numerous other cars to use if I need to go somewhere else.
So they're perfect for you.
Yeah, they're
because when they're not
fine.
perfect, you take something else.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean they are ready for widespread adoption yet. The thing that I find interesting about internal combustion, and I'm going to talk about the whole of the Industrial Revolution and everything, but very briefly, is that it's an incredibly complicated thing. You've got pistons going up and down, then you've got a camshaft going round and round, and possibly push rods going up and down as well, and springs being compressed, and valves going up and down, and then gears going round. It's all this got, but all you actually get out of it. Look at one of those cutaway diagrams of a modern engine. You think, bloody Nora, look at all that stuff going on. But what you get is a shaft spinning round and round.
Yeah.
Same as the bottom bracket of a bicycle, same as a windmill, same as a water wheel, same as a capstan and windlass on a ship. That's all you need to empower the world.
Yeah.
And the electric motor is such an elegant way of doing it.
Yes.
That it's always made sense. And it is weird that we've refined, and it's not over, I don't believe it's over by a long way, refined the piston engine from a thing that went dunk, 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 dunk with a hot tube, ignition system.
Yes.
So these incredibly sophisticated ones combined with electric motors to make hybrids, and they're so beautifully thought out. And yet all they're really doing is giving you something going
spinning a
round
shaft.
and round. That's all it is.
Yes. And you can do that with your legs if you like.
Yeah.